This will begin a look at the three rondo forms, beginning with first rondo form. Here's an overview of the form: principal theme, transition, subordinate theme, codetta, retransition, principal theme prime, and coda. Now the rondo form is different than the rondo style. Rondo style is usually animated, whereas the principal theme is not restricted to a particular style, so they're not the same. After the principal theme, the transition, it is technically optional, but it's highly unusual to omit because very rarely do the different sections mesh together without the use of some sort of bridge at least. So a good example of an effective transition is Beethoven's Opus 31 No. 1 Movement 2 Sonata. I encourage you to look at it. Now the transition is made up of two mini sections. The first serves to modulate into the position of a subordinate theme because they're in different keys. So modulating into that is the first part, and then the second part is to establish the modulation to get used to the new tonality. Now one possible way of modulating is called dissolution, which means rather than using a straightforward expected key change like 5 to 1 or something like that, dissolution is using something a little bit more obscure. Now if that's the case, that the B part, establishing the modulation, is extra important. So we'll now look at the other sections of this form. The subordinate theme. Now in the classical period, the most common keys would be the dominant or the mediant. Beethoven and Mahler give good exceptions to this, oftentimes using the one in the minor or major mode, the opposite mode. It's almost always contrasting in some way, whether it's rhythm, mood, or something else. So after the subordinate theme, the codetta is a short section, and either is repeated, or if it's not repeated, the second half of the codetta forms the first part of the retransition. So if the codetta only has an A section and a B section, rather than A followed by a repeat of A, then the B section is the first part of the retransition. Now the retransition is similar to the transition. It includes the same A and B sections, but it's usually expanded and it has more elements directly from the principal theme. Now the principal theme prime, it can be a direct copy of the principal theme, but it's usually elaborated, and is either A, ending in the tonic, in which case the coda is an independent section. So in other words, the principal theme ends and then a new section begins, which is the coda, the last section of the piece. The other option is it uses dissolution again, a more obscure tonal, a different way of modulating to the coda, or is tonally diverted. In that case, the principal theme prime is going to be the first section of the coda. So once again we see more smooth transitioning if there's no repeat and more obscure key changes. Now the coda is optional as far as how many sections it has, but if it has only one section, then essentially it's the same as the codetta, and it almost always contains elements from either the principal theme or the subordinate theme. Occasionally it can have new material if it's a short section. So up next we'll talk about the second rondo form.